carnal, dice mi gente, la raza está abajo y tú estás indiferente. Prefieres cerrar los ojos, no vi nada. Estabas ocupado por andar en la tomada. Te gusta tirar el cruising todo el día, buscando a las mujeres como si el mundo acabaría. Pero no sabías que tú podías continuar tu educación para superarte en la vida. Hermano joven, levanta tu frente y siente el orgullo de ser un descendiente de los aztecas, los incas y los mayas. Ayúdame a pelear y vencer.
Representative, talk me through this bill. What alarms you most here?
Well, it's actually 3 bills. So HB4 allows for the deportation. Well, actually, let me back up. It empowers local law enforcement all the way from South Texas all the way to the Panhandle, from El Paso to Houston, to determine if somebody is in this country undocumented. And upon that determination, it allows for those same state law enforcement officers or local law enforcement officers to act as deportation officers. And so they can drive that individual, should they make a determination if that person is here undocumented, and drive them to the border. Look, I'm 300 miles from the border, born and raised in Houston, but I know the border community very well. I have a grandmother, I have a dad and uncles and aunts and cousins that live along the border. The problem with the bill is that the Constitution should matter. And one of the issues that we have is we love our law enforcement. We understand there's issues along the border. I'm a problem solver. I've worked on a bipartisan way to solve problems in Texas. The issue we have with this particular bill is that it acts as federal law enforcement agency. And so for those of my friends in local law enforcement, my cousins and my uncles that work for Houston Police Department or that work for the Harris County Sheriff's Department, if they wanted to be in the deportation business, they would have become ICE agents. But that's the crux of the bill. The other bill, HB6, spends another $1.5 billion on a border wall down in South Texas. SB4 also enhances penalties for human smuggling. Look, we're against human smuggling. It's a humanitarian crisis that we have on our hands. We need Congress to act, but the state of Texas, instead of working and sitting down with the Biden administration to find a resolution or solutions to these issues, all they do is file lawsuits and antagonize the president. And whereas we could be actually working on a bipartisan way to try to alleviate some of these issues. But look, we're all complicit. We are all complicit because we love the cheap labor. There's not a restaurant in this country where immigrants haven't cooked that meal. There's not a fruit or vegetable in this country where an immigrant hasn't picked that fruit. There's not a construction site in this country without an immigrant working that backhoe or that. And so for us, I'm a proud American. I'm a proud Texan. I'm a proud Houstonian. I'm born and raised here in the United States. But what I don't want to do is for my community, for the hardworking people that call America home, to be profiled in a way that would harm them in any way. And so that was my sentiment. I stand by what I said on the House floor. My abuelitas, my late abuelos, probably, Alicia, probably wouldn't like the language. They're God-fearing people, and they don't like that kind of language. But I think they both would be very upset if I didn't stand up and say anything. After my 16 years in the legislature, we would never think that in Texas we share a common bond with Mexico. It's our largest trading partner. We share a language together. We share cultural ties together. We share economic ties together. And so for us to demonize a certain segment of the population by empowering local law enforcement, we're going to suffer from unintended consequences where U.S. citizens could be
Stay on that point, Representative, because I've got about 30 seconds left, but I want to make sure that I get you in on this specific point, which is from here. I'm not in Texas. It has shades of Arizona's SB 1070. Show me your papers, right? And we know what happened in Arizona. There is a decade of political organizing that happened that delivered that state for Democrats and for Joe Biden, in part because there were young people who felt that they were being targeted by that legislation. I wonder if you see something similar happening in Texas.
Well, there are certainly some parallels because what they're encroaching on, the state of Texas, is on federal law, on federal statute and policies. So when you empower a local law enforcement to without any training, now the bill doesn't specify any training in the language. When you empower those folks, and I love law enforcement, But when you empower those folks to then act as immigration or ICE agents without any training, that is a big slippery slope for us to be on. And I'm not going to, my community has sent me to Austin to fight for them. I'm not going to sit back and allow anyone to attack our community in this way, because it's been 16 years I've been in the legislature. I've worked on a bipartisan way because I'm a Democrat in the Republican controlled legislature. Every seat of power in this state is controlled by Republicans. I've been able to be successful in working in bipartisan way. But in this case, there are similarities and parallels with Arizona SB 1070. And I think the state of Texas wants to actually, my sense is they want to challenge, they want this to go up to the Supreme Court, because obviously we will, in essence, file a lawsuit should this bill pass.
Antonio Díaz con su programa de Mestizo Experience. Como saben, el programa es bilingüe, solo que voy a hablar español, inglés, y ojalá me pueda recordar unas palabras todavía. Lo que hablaba yo es que es náhuatl. Welcome everybody to your program of Mestizo Experience. It's bilingual, so I'll be speaking both Spanish, English, and some náhuatl, hopefully in between. Today is April, not April Fool, April 3rd, but I talk about international or world events and national, state, and local events, and try to keep it to where it's impacting the indigenous community or Native Americans, right? Or I hate to say that, even that word, just indigenous people, tribal, around the world. We're reminded that Israel has been killing thousands of Palestinians, more than, I guess, any other time, and so it's a genocide going on, and no one can stop. And I always go into how religion plays a major part in controlling what the government does. And since Israel's mythology of all their messiahs, and the last one that the Romans got a hold of being Jesus, has ruled since then, right? Since the Roman time, the creation of Jesus, and so the ties there with Israel are strong, and you can't turn against the chosen people, no matter how many Palestinians they slaughter, women, children, no matter. They're still in the right. They're still the chosen people, right? Wrong. People are people, no matter what your beliefs are. And genocide is genocide. That should stop. Les dije un poco aquí de lo que está pasando con los palestinos y los judíos, que por la religión los judíos tienen todo el poder de cometer todo tipo de genocidio, y nadie levanta ni un dedo ni nada para pararlos, porque pues entonces se están oponiendo en contra de Dios, ¿verdad? De su Dios que los romanos criaron, de la religión judía, ¿no? Que era cuando mataron a su opósito, mataron a un hombre que se llamaba a Jesús, que fue uno de los mesías de los judíos, y sí o no, porque unos dijeron que sí, otros dijeron que no, ¿verdad? Ese fue el pleito, que por eso lo mataron, que los mismos judíos querían que los romanos lo mataran, porque él andaba diciendo que él era profeta y hijo de Dios y quién sabe qué. Bueno, y pues ahora son los elegidos de Dios. Nadie les puede oponerse o decir nada en contra de ellos, solo que pueden matar a todos los palestinos que les dé la gana, y piensan que todavía son los escogidos, los elegidos del Dios de ellos, ¿no? Pues, o el Dios de los cristianos. Yo no creo en eso, pero hay ustedes. Ahí estaban con su Pascua y quién sabe qué más, apenas no este domingo. Pero los judíos allá bombardeando a los palestinos, matando niños y mujeres y todo. Eso tiene que parar, ¿no? Bueno, ese es un tema. Aquí en lo que se formó como los Estados Unidos, este gobierno en nuestras tierras, sigue todavía el racismo, ¿no? Porque le puedo decir varias cosas como en los 1980s, cuando andaba el republicano Reagan, el que era actor antes de presidente, yendo a Europa y diciéndole a los rusos que tumbaran el bordo, ¿no? ¡Tumben este muro! Knock down the wall, ¿no? Es lo que le dijo a Gorbachev Reagan. Porque estaba separando a Alemania, parte comunista, la otra parte demócrata, los andaban ahí cruzando, ¿no?, el muro y siendo encarcelados o hasta matados por sus acciones. Pues allá fue Reagan y dicen que tumbaron el gobierno de los rusos y por eso todavía se están reformando y andan peleando acá con Ucrania y todo eso. Eso pasó, ¿verdad? Aquí nuestro país, que yo digo, se llama Semanahuac, o el Isla de las Tortugas, como quieran llamarle. Pero desde que llegó Cristo Colón, o como le quieran llamar, colonudo, hay de Columbus, hay llegando ahí por Cuba y Haití y todo, haciendo sus cosas de esclavitud y de genocidio en contra de la gente indígena. Eso no ha parado. Tiene diferentes nombres, ha cambiado un poco aquí y allá, pero es lo mismo. Ven estas leyes que todavía siguen, como las leyes de Arizona, las leyes aquí en Texas, las leyes nacional que andan mandando militares de diferentes estados para la frontera aquí en contra de México, en el sur. Lo que andaba allá Reagan en 1986, ahí que tumben el muro. Y acá andan como todos los presidentes, empezando con Clinton o Bush, ahí que era bien atroz. No sé por qué lo quieren. No era bueno, estaba bien corrupto. Los dos, el viejo y el hijo. Y hasta el Jeb Bush allá de Florida, todos. Pensando que ellos por eso digo, lo de Alemania, como se hizo parte cuando el fin de la guerra mundial número 2, que repartieron a Alemania y pusieron el muro y todo eso, era porque todo todavía sigue lo mismo. Los judíos estaban todavía ahí jugando una parte mayor, pero ellos eran los que estaban haciendo violados, ¿no? La humanidad de ellos, por los alemanes, que show me your papers, ¿no? Y para saber si eran judíos, y le ponían la estrella en el pecho y los encarcelaban en los campos de concentración y los mataban, ¿no? Ahora los Estados Unidos es la nueva Nazi Alemania, ¿no? Quiere pedirle a toda la gente de piel café o que no se mire como gringos, güeros, porque ¿cómo van a saber si eres de los Estados Unidos o no? La única manera es si te pareces a lo que Colón pensaba que iba llegado para India, ¿no? Y le llamó a los indígenas de aquí indios. Solo que si pareces lo que Colón creía que era un indio, te van a pedir por los papeles. No importa si eres de aquí, si eres un ciudadano nacional de aquí, de estos Estados Unidos, o los Estados Unidos de México, o de Centroamérica o Sudamérica, nos parecemos lo mismo, ¿eh? Mi piel está café, solo que si no hablo y me piden papeles, voy a decir, pues ¿por qué? Yo aquí llevo generaciones y todavía antes que esto fuera México, aquí estaba mi gente. Estas leyes racistas, nacionalistas que están implementando en contra de nuestra gente, que siguen y siguen y siguen para mantenernos en el sur de los Estados Unidos, donde ellos mantienen esas naciones pobres. No los dejan que tengan la riqueza que es la naturaleza que les da a ellos, la riqueza. Este gobierno no los deja. Los tienen en deuda siempre y por eso el valor de su moneda no es casi nada, ¿no? Para tener eso. Y acá debemos de estar, como yo debo de estar, pues yo también estoy bien rico y todo, pero no. Yo me enfoco que soy gente indígena y veo lo que siguen haciendo es de que las generaciones de mis tatarabuelos, ¿no? Porque si mis tatarabuelos fueron colonizados y fueron convertidos a la iglesia cristiana, fue a fuerza. Ya después, pues, se impuso uno, porque para vivir tienes que hacer lo que te dicen y luego ya empiezas tú a ser el que pone la ley. La ley que te imponieron a ti, tú la impones, sigues imponiéndola, porque ya estás impuesto, no sabes nada más. Ya de una generación a la otra mataron a todos los que creían todavía de rezar a la naturaleza, ¿verdad? Anyway, I've been going on and on in Spanish, which probably provokes you all that don't like it, right? That you speak American, even though it's English, which came from England. American would be when I speak Nahuatl, and I start telling you, Nilsi, Cualitlanesi, or Amoquali. It means I don't like this. The languages here throughout were indigenous people. These laws, these Nazi-type laws that supposedly the United States, Russia, and everybody, England, when they fought against Germany, that they were to end it. When I was talking about Reagan going over there and telling Gorbachev, tear down this wall, right, in 1986 or so. Well, the United States has been busily implementing a wall against Mexicans since then. And I'm going to touch on the Texas Republic, which started in 1836. Their second president, which is here, right, Texas Republic, formulated a law to exterminate all natives, all indigenous people. It drove them into Mexico, across the border, or towards what was then just land beyond Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, but out of here. Even the two reservations that the federal government wanted to have, the Republic of Texas didn't respect, and killed a federal bureau agent. So, and massacred all the people that were in, thinking that they were safe in a reservation. That's Texas. So this governor, starting this SB4, Show Me Your Papers law here, under a Republican-controlled Congress and governorship, right? The stupid Dan Patrick is another lieutenant governor. These people are crazy. They should be born over there in Nazi Germany. Show me your papers, and they're implementing still against people that look native, indigenous type people, okay? Not white, probably not even black, because they supposedly look American, right? You don't want to, after 400 years of slavery, you don't want to mess with them either. But us, that were messed around with since the arrival of Europeans, keep on messing with us. You want to keep us concentrated across the Rio Bravo, where you're putting your barbed wires and calling for soldiers from every state to come down here and keep our people, whether the babies drown in the river or don't drown, or now you want to be able to send your local police, again, as to me, as little Nazis. I won't say Gestapo, because those are probably your federal agents, but you're acting just like that nationalist government of the Nazis of Germany at that time. Show me your papers, because I don't want you here. I want to throw you, even though there's work done here by our people that migrate north, which at once upon a time, we have that right as indigenous people. But it's been taken away through this nationalist, racist legislations led by the Republicans of the United States. Continually. And by Democrats that capitulate to their benefit. So, it's both parties. You Democrats could fight stronger if you really believed in equality. If you really believed in changing what was done by the previous generations against Native people, against brown people. We're not Hispanic, not all of us. We're not Latino, not all of us. majority are native people. Like this kid from Guatemala that was stopped by this, in Florida, by this cop that died, and now he might be in prison for the rest of his life because all he spoke was his native tongue. He didn't even speak Spanish, much less English. Show me your papers, grabbed him in a headlock, and the cop dies because he's out of shape or got a bad heart. That should have been taken care of by the police force, not put on this kid and make him spend the rest of his life in prison. He's a native person. How can say, well, we foreigners, occupiers, invaders, now have more right. We can put you in prison because we want to throw you back across the river, and you refuse to show me your ID because you don't understand me, because you still speak the language of your ancestors. No, show me your papers law. Let's change this at least. Tlazocamati.
An incident from May out of Florida is once again highlighting the prevalence of two ongoing issues in this country: excessive force by police and the plight of immigrants. In May of this year, Virgilio Aguilar Mendez, a Guatemalan farm worker, was stopped by police outside a motel near St. Augustine. The reason they wanted to speak with Mendez is unclear. Body cam video shows the teen appeared confused. Not speaking English, he didn't understand the officer's orders. Mendez was tackled to the ground, searched for weapons, and tased several times as he attempted to get away out of fear. Immediately following the minutes-long struggle, one of the officers, Sergeant Michael Kunovich, had a heart attack. He later died. Now, the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office wants to hold Mendez responsible for the officer's death, charging him with a first-degree felony, aggravated manslaughter of an officer that could put Mendez in prison for the rest of his life. Joining me now is the reporter who covered this story for us, senior national reporter for NBC Latino and NBCnews.com, Suzanne Gamboa. Suzanne, thank you for joining me. Do we have any understanding of why the officer asked Mendez to stop in the first place?
No, and that's a really big question that I think a lot of people are asking. The narrative is that, there was reason to stop him, to ask him questions. This is an area that has a lot of crime, according to the sheriff's department. But there's no report that he was committing any kind of suspicious activity. And so that's still something to be cleared up in the case.
Indeed. And I understand at one point they suggested trespassing, but he hasn't been charged with trespassing. What is the argument from the sheriff's office that Mendez should be held responsible for Sergeant Michael Kunovich's unfortunate death? And how has Mendez's lawyer responded?
Well, initially, the narrative was that because of this struggle that was that happened between him and the young man to arrest him, that there was resisting arrest, and that created sort of a stress on Sergeant Kunovich. Originally, the charge was homicide, so he was actually accused of killing the officer. Those charges have been changed to where it is now sort of a contributing cause, that because he resisted, that brought on the stress that caused the problems that brought on the irregular heart problems and led to his death. So there is this attempt to say, had he not resisted, this would have never happened. But the attorney in this case is arguing this didn't have to happen in the first place. There was confusion on the part of the young man. He doesn't speak English, and his Spanish is not that good either. His actual native tongue is a indigenous language from Guatemala called Mam, and he maybe was very confused. In a recent hearing on whether or not he should be held on bond, there was testimony that he doesn't have the intellectual capacity to fully understand some of what he was being told, some of the arguments, the commands that were being made to him. I was reading the report again, and he told an officer he didn't want to put his hand behind his back because that hurts when you have to put your hands behind your back. So which sort of suggests a misunderstanding of what he's supposed to be doing at that time.
And talk about the foldable pocket knife that Mendez had in his possession. Do the officers contest that he tried to brandish it against them or use it at any point?
I think I was told by the attorney that there were some accusations that he actually pulled the knife. The original statement that was made by the sheriff was that the knife played a part in the officer tackling him, arresting him, the whole struggle that went on. But the knife was small enough to fit in his clenched fist. And the officers didn't find it until after they had him handcuffed and he was clenching it. They discovered it. The incident report that was written, that several officers told the interviewer that they were concerned for their lives. It was a fear for their safety because this knife could have been used, and it had a button on it that could open it automatically. But it was small, and the attorney says that his intention was not to use it on anyone. Again, the confusion came in, and when he was asked about the knife, both during the arrest, when they tried to take it from him, he yelled out, "Sandia, sandia," which is the word in Spanish for watermelon. And at one point he says that he uses it for watermelon, and he told that later to officers that was for work. So if he's a farm worker working in Florida, he has a knife on him that he uses for work. He had it in his pocket. The question is, was he trying to use it, or was he just afraid that they're going to take his knife that he needs for work?
There is body cam video in this case, and what did it show that would support his attorney's claims about excessive force?
Oh, wow. So you see, it's kind of hard video to watch when you watch the full video, and you see an officer using a kick to the legs to bring him down. They roll on top of him. They use their knee into the ribs to control him. And the worst, I think, is when the taser comes out and he's tased multiple times, and you can hear the screams of the young man, and it's clearly screams of agony. There's one point where he grabs the taser, and it appears in the video. And now I'm not a lawyer, and I'm sure both sides will be argued, but that it's sort of an attempt to push it back because he knows it's about to really hurt. So it's there are a lot of things that go on, and also a lot of huffing and puffing. He's also sort of pushing back. I don't want to use the word resisting because that's a word that they use legally, but he's pushing back to keep the officers from tackling him, because all the whole thing, the struggle keeps going on.
NBC News national correspondent Suzanne Gamboa, thank you.
¿Qué onda, carnal? Dice mi gente, la raza está abajo y tú estás indiferente. Prefieres cerrar los ojos, no vi nada. Estabas ocupado por andar en la tomada. Te gusta tirar el cruising todo el día, buscando a las mujeres como si el mundo acabaría. Pero no sabías que tú podías continuar tu educación para superarte en la vida. Hermano joven, levanta tu frente y siente el orgullo de ser un descendiente de los aztecas, los incas y los mayas. Ayúdame a pelear y vencer.